The twin moons hung low over the alien city of Velthar, painting everything in red light. The streets were silent except for the whisper of wind carrying the smell of smoke and rust. The market had closed hours ago, but one woman still walked through the shadows, her steps weak, her breath uneven. Her name was Lariah. Her body was wrapped in a torn silver shawl. The cloth had once belonged to her husband, now long gone. In her arms she carried a small bundle, 2 sleeping girls, her daughters. Their faces were pale and thin, their lips cracked from thirst. She had not eaten in days, and yet her eyes burned with one thing stronger than hunger: a mother's determination. Lariah stopped at the end of the street, where the faint glow of illegal stalls flickered like dying stars. The black market district. She had promised herself she would never come here, a place where alien life could be bought or sold, where hearts and organs were traded for power. But promises were easy when your children weren't starving. A guard stopped her at the entrance. His armor shone faintly and his voice was cold. "You don't belong here, woman. This market is for those who have something to sell." Lariah looked up at him. Her eyes shimmered with quiet fire. "I do," she whispered. "I have my heart." The guard frowned but let her pass. Inside, rows of vendors called out in strange tongues, showing jars that glowed with blue, green, and violet light. Hearts, energy cores, and life essence stolen from the desperate. Each one was a soul's final price. She walked until she reached a small, dimly lit stall at the far end. A human stood there, tall, quiet, and expressionless. His name was Eli Varon, a smuggler known for buying strange things. Some said he traded life cores to the military. Others said he saved them. No one knew the truth. When he saw her, he paused. Alien mothers did not usually walk into his stall. "What do you seek?" he asked softly. Lariah lowered her hood, revealing her trembling face. "I seek food for my daughters. They will die by morning." Her voice broke, but she stood tall. "I will sell you my heart crystal." Eli's eyes widened slightly. "Your heart crystal?" She nodded. "Every woman of my kind is born with one. It keeps us alive, it carries our memories, our love, everything we are. But without it I will fade." He stared at her for a long time. Around them the world seemed to go silent. Even the humming of other stalls disappeared. Finally he said, "Why not ask your own people for help?" "They already turned me away," she whispered. "A mother with no husband, no clan, I am nothing to them." "My daughters are all I have." Eli's jaw tightened. He saw the 2 sleeping girls behind her, curled up on a worn blanket. Their tiny hands clutched each other even in sleep. Lariah slowly opened her palm. A faint light shone from her chest and she drew it out. A glowing crystal heart, small as a star. It pulsed weakly as if afraid. The moment it left her body, she gasped and staggered, falling to her knees. Eli caught her before she hit the ground. The crystal floated between them, glowing brighter, reflecting in his eyes. He whispered, "If I take this, you will die." "I know," she said softly, "but my daughters will live. That is all that matters." He hesitated. No one had ever offered him something so pure, so tragic. He looked down at the heart. It beat gently in rhythm with her failing pulse. Eli turned away for a moment, struggling with the decision. "How much food do you need?" "Enough for 2 children." "For a few days," she whispered. He exhaled sharply. "This heart is worth a shipload of gold, and you ask for bread?" Lariah smiled faintly. "Gold cannot feed love. Bread can." Her eyes closed. She was fading fast. Eli made a choice. He reached for his scanner, sealed the heart inside a containment sphere, and gently placed it into a cryo case. Then he lifted Lariah in his arms and carried her to his hovercraft. "Why are you helping me?" she murmured weakly. He looked at her with eyes that carried years of regret. "Because I once had a mother who would have done the same." As the hovercraft rose into the crimson night, the city lights shimmered below like dying embers. Inside the craft, the girls stirred, opening their eyes for a moment. The older one, Seren, whispered, "Mama." Eli turned his gaze to her and forced a calm smile. "Sleep, little one. Your mother is safe now." But inside, he knew it was a lie. When they landed near the refugee camp, he gave the girls food, blankets, and care. But when they asked where their mother was, he only looked at the sky. Lariah lay motionless in the hovercraft, her heartbeat gone, yet the heart crystal pulsed faintly inside the containment sphere. Eli touched the glass and whispered to it, "I will bring you back. I swear." Outside, thunder rolled across the alien horizon, and a new dawn began. one that would tie a human and an alien family together in ways neither world could ever forget. The dawn on the planet Velthar came with a violet sky and a silence that felt heavy. Inside a quiet refugee shelter, two small alien girls slept side by side on a soft bed for the first time in weeks. Their breathing was slow, their faces calm, but the world outside still carried the weight of what had been lost. The older one, Seren, woke first. She blinked at the strange white ceiling and the soft hum of machines. For a moment she thought it was a dream. The air didn't smell of smoke or fear anymore. She could smell bread. Beside her, her little sister Naya stirred, her silver hair tangled and soft. "Mama," she mumbled. Her voice was weak and her eyes half opened. Seren looked around. No sign of their mother. Only a human man standing near the door, his back turned. He was tall, wearing a dark coat that brushed the floor. The name tag on his arm said E. Varen. "Where's our mother?" Seren asked. Her voice trembled. Eli Varen turned slowly. His eyes were kind but tired. "She's resting," he said softly. "She gave everything to keep you alive." Seren frowned. "Resting where?" He looked away. The truth sat heavy on his tongue, but he couldn't say it. He simply nodded toward the window, where the sky glowed with morning light. "She's watching over you now." Seren didn't understand. But she saw something in his eyes. Guilt, pain, and a strange tenderness. She stayed quiet. He placed a small box on the table beside them. "Food, water, clothes. You're safe here. No one will harm you." Naya reached for a piece of bread with trembling fingers, biting into it like she hadn't eaten in years. Tears filled her eyes. "Mama said humans were bad," she whispered with her mouth full. "But you're not bad," Eli smiled faintly. "Not all humans are good either. But your mother, she believed in hope." He turned away, walking toward the door. Seren watched him go, her small hands clutching the blanket tightly. "Will you come back?" she asked quietly. Eli stopped for a moment, then nodded once. "Always." When he left, the door slid shut with a soft hiss. The sound echoed in Seren's chest like a promise she didn't fully understand. Days passed. The refugee center became their new world. The other children called them the Daughters of Glass because their skin shimmered faintly when sunlight touched it, a mark from the faint energy of their mother's lost heart crystal. Seren grew fast. She was sharp, watchful, and quiet. Naya was gentle and curious, often asking questions that made the caretakers smile. But both carried an invisible emptiness, a piece of their world that could never be replaced. At night, Seren dreamed of a glowing crystal calling her name. In her dreams, she would see a faint human figure standing beside it, whispering to her, "I will return it. I promise." She always woke with tears on her face. Far across the city, Eli Varen sat alone in a small workshop lit by flickering lamps. In the center of his table rested the containment sphere, the heart crystal. It pulsed with soft golden light, weak but alive. He placed his hand on the glass. The crystal responded, glowing a little brighter. "You're still there, aren't you, Lariah?" he murmured. The scanners around him beeped softly, showing strange readings. The energy pattern of the heart was changing, reacting to his presence. Somehow it was bonding with him. That shouldn't have been possible. Human biology wasn't compatible with alien life cores, and yet when he held the sphere he could feel a faint warmth spreading through his hand. And into his chest he whispered, "You're still trying to live. You're not done yet." He opened a file on his holoscreen. It was marked Project Heartlink. It contained forbidden research, ancient theories that said a human and an alien could share a single life core. But it had never been tried. The last attempt had ended in death for both. Eli stared at the screen for a long time. "You gave your heart for your daughters," he whispered. "Now I'll find a way to give it back." He didn't notice the small crack forming in the containment sphere's surface, or the faint heartbeat that echoed softly through the room. Back at the refugee center, Seren stood near the window one night looking at the stars. Naya slept behind her, clutching a small wooden charm that Eli had left them, a charm shaped like a heart. Seren spoke softly to the sky. "Mama, if you can hear me, we're safe now. But the man who helped us, he's sad. I can feel it." The wind moved gently, brushing her hair aside. For a moment she thought she heard a whisper in return. "Keep your heart strong, my child. One day he will need it, Seren blinked, tears filling her eyes again. She didn't know if it was real, but she believed it. Far away, Eli couldn't sleep. The sound of the crystal's heartbeat had grown louder. He could hear it now, faint but steady, matching his own. He looked out the window toward the refugee district. "Soon," he whispered. "When I find the cure, I'll bring you home." The crystal glowed brighter as if answering him. Its light reflected in his eyes, a warm golden shimmer that made him look almost not human. Outside, lightning flashed across the alien sky, cutting through the clouds. Somewhere, two little girls slept peacefully, unaware that the man who saved them was slowly binding his soul to the heart of their mother. The night whispered with fate, and the bargain that had begun with a dying mother was far from over. 15 years later, the skies of Velthar Prime no longer glowed red. The war had ended and peace had returned, at least on the surface. Starships crossed the horizon every hour, carrying trade, diplomats, and dreamers. But peace never truly touched every heart. Some wounds ran too deep. In the capital's academy stood two sisters, the same daughters of glass now grown. Seren Vea, tall and strong, wore the silver armor of an officer trainee. Her hair shimmered faintly like starlight, her eyes calm and distant. Beside her, her younger sister Naya worked in the medical division, learning to heal with alien and human science alike. To most, they were heroes, symbols of hope after the Great Famine. But they remembered what others forgot. They remembered their mother's final night. They remembered the human man who saved them, and vanished. Naya still kept the small wooden charm he had given them. She wore it around her neck, its surface worn smooth by time. "Seren," she said one morning, "you think he's still out there?" Seren didn't look up from her datapad. "Humans don't stay long in alien lands. He probably left the system years ago." Naya frowned. "But you don't believe that?" Seren paused, her jaw tightening. "No," she whispered. "I think he never left. I think he's looking for something." That night, the Academy's sky shield flickered, or a rare malfunction. A single ship entered orbit unauthorized. Its hull was scarred, its lights dim. The registry code was old, human-made. Inside the control room, the officer on duty frowned. "No transponder signal. It's running on manual." Seren walked in, her uniform glowing faintly under the blue lights. "Visual feed?" The officer turned the screen. The ship's emblem appeared, a faint circle enclosing a single star. Seren's heart skipped. She had seen that symbol once before, 15 years ago. On the code of Eli Varen, "Open a channel," she ordered. Static filled the room. Then a faint voice, rough and tired, broke through. "This is Captain Varen, requesting permission to land. I'm bringing back something that belongs here." Minutes later, the ship touched down in the dust outside the Academy's courtyard. The hatch opened slowly, releasing a hiss of cold air. Seren and Naya stood side by side, their hearts pounding. A figure stepped out, a man, older now, his hair streaked with silver, his eyes sunken but still sharp. His face carried both exhaustion and peace. It was him. "Eli," Naya gasped and ran forward, but Seren held her back. The man was weak, trembling, holding a metal case close to his chest. The glow leaking through its cracks was faintly golden, alive. "Eli?" Seren said quietly. He looked at her and smiled faintly. "You've grown," he said. His voice trembled. "Your mother would be proud." Seren took a step forward. "Where have you been?" "Searching," he replied, "for a way to keep my promise." He opened the metal case. Inside, the heart crystal still pulsed, weak but glowing. The same light they remembered from childhood dreams. Naya's eyes widened. "Mama's heart?" Eli nodded. "It's alive. But not for long. I've kept it beating all these years." Seren stared at the crystal, then at him. "You've been carrying it all this time?" He smiled faintly. "I said I'd bring it back." The sisters led him inside the lab chamber where med drones scanned the crystal. The results were impossible. The heart was half alien, half human now. It pulsed in rhythm with Eli's own heartbeat. Naya frowned. "It's linked to you." "If we remove it," he nodded. "I'll die." "I know." Seren's hands tightened into fists. "You've been dying slowly all these years because of it." Eli looked at her gently. "It was my choice. Your mother gave her life to save you. The least I could do was keep her light alive." For a long moment, no one spoke. The hum of machines filled the silence. Naya whispered, You cared for her, didn't you? Eli smiled sadly. More than I ever said. But some promises are stronger than love. That night, rain fell across the academy dome. Eli stood on the balcony, the containment sphere glowing faintly in his hand. He spoke softly to the heart inside. I found them, Lyria, he said. They're strong now. They don't need me anymore. But they deserve to see you again. The heart flickered, almost like a heartbeat responding to his words. He smiled. Behind him, Seren stepped into the light. You shouldn't be out here, she said quietly. You'll collapse again, he looked at her. Do you ever hear it? The sound of it calling? Seren hesitated. Sometimes. In my dreams, he nodded. That's because part of her lives in you. When she gave her heart, it left a mark. Seren stepped closer. Eli, if this thing is killing you, let us help. He shook his head gently. You can't help me. But you can finish what I started. A loud alarm suddenly echoed from inside the lab. The containment field around the heart crystal began to fluctuate wildly. Energy readings spiked. Naya rushed to the console. It's unstable, she shouted. It's resonating with something, or someone. Eli turned toward the sphere, his expression calm. It's time, he whispered. The crystal glowed brighter and brighter, casting golden light across the walls. The machine struggled to contain it. Serene grabbed his arm. Eli, what's happening? He smiled faintly. She's waking up. The light flared, filling the room with warmth. Not dangerous, but alive, like the first sunrise after endless night. And in that golden radiance, a soft voice whispered through the air. Faint, trembling, but full of love. My daughters, my heart, you kept your promise. Naya covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Serene stood frozen, eyes wide with disbelief. Eli closed his eyes, his body trembling. Welcome back, Lyria. The crystal pulsed once, strong and steady. And though Eli fell to his knees, the smile never left his face. The light faded slowly, leaving behind the smell of rain and electricity. The sisters blinked, trying to see through the glow. The air felt warm and alive. The heart crystal floated in midair, spinning gently like a tiny sun. And then from the light, a faint shape appeared, a woman's outline shimmering like glass. Naya gasped. Mama, the holographic figure smiled softly. Her face was pale but kind, her voice trembling like a forgotten melody. My little ones, how much you've grown. Seren could not speak. She had dreamed of this moment since childhood, but now her throat was tight, her hands shaking. Is it really you? She whispered. Lyria's image looked at them with tears of light in her eyes. I am what remains of me. He kept me alive all these years. She turned her gaze toward Eli, who was kneeling beside the console, his breath ragged, his face pale. His hand pressed against his chest where faint golden veins glowed beneath the skin. Seren rushed to him. Eli, what's happening? He tried to speak, but his voice came weak and slow. The link between us, it's breaking. The crystal wants to go home. It's taking my energy. Naya looked at the readings on the monitor. His heartbeat was fading while the crystal's pulse grew stronger. It's draining you, she cried. He smiled faintly. Good, that means it's working. Lyria's voice trembled. No, I never wanted this. You were meant to live. Eli lifted his head, looking at her with calm eyes. You gave your heart to save your daughters. Let me return it. The sisters stood frozen, caught between awe and horror. The machines around them hummed louder. The containment field pulsed faster, reacting to Eli's weakening state. Stop this, Serene shouted. There has to be another way. But Lyria shook her head sadly. Once the bond was made, only one life can carry the crystal. If he releases it, he dies. If he holds it, I remain trapped between life and death. Naya began to cry. No, there must be something else. Eli reached out, touching her shoulder gently. Sometimes compassion has a price. Your mother paid it once. Now it's my turn. Outside, thunder rolled again. The night wind howled against the academy dome. The sky was dark, heavy with storm clouds that glowed faintly gold each time lightning struck. Inside the lab, Lyria's hologram flickered. She knelt before Eli's fading body, her voice soft. You've carried my light longer than anyone should. Why? He looked up at her, his lips trembling with a faint smile. Because you deserve to see them grow. For the first time, Lyria's calm expression broke. Tears streamed down her translucent face. You foolish, beautiful human, she whispered. Her hand reached out, touching his cheek, and then for a second, he felt it. Warmth. Real. The golden veins on his neck brightened, pulsing in rhythm with the crystal. His body shook violently. Naya screamed, rushing forward, but Seren held her back. No, he's finishing it! The heart crystal floated higher, its light spreading across the ceiling like dawn. The walls shook. Screens cracked. The room filled with a strange hum, a sound that was neither human nor alien, but something in between. Then everything went silent. When the light faded again, Lyraya stood there, lying solid, alive, flesh and blood. Her silver hair fell to her shoulders, her eyes glowing softly. She looked down at her hands, trembling. Her heart crystal had returned to her chest, but Eli lay still. Serene fell to her knees beside him. Eli, wake up, please. Naya knelt on the other side, holding his cold hand. You can't leave us now. You promised to come back. Lyraya's breath hitched. She placed her hand on his chest, but there was no heartbeat. For a moment, the only sound in the lab was the soft sobbing of her daughters. Then, Lyraya whispered something ancient, words of her people spoken in a language long forgotten. Her heart crystal began to glow again, faint and slow. Serene looked up. What are you doing? Lyraya's voice was soft but firm. He gave me life. I can share it. Golden light spread from her chest to her hands, flowing into Eli's body like threads of sunlight. His veins lit up once more, his chest rising faintly. But she groaned in pain. Every pulse weakened her. Naya cried out, Mama, stop. You'll die again. Lyria smiled weakly. Love doesn't die twice. It changes shape. She bent closer, whispering something into Eli's ear. None of them heard the words. But a single tear slid down her cheek and fell onto his hand, and the moment it touched, the light flared again. When it finally dimmed, Lyraya slumped to the floor, unconscious. Eli gasped, his eyes opening suddenly. Serene and Naya froze. He's alive! Eli blinked, breathing hard. His hands trembled as he looked around the glowing room. Where is she? Seren looked toward their mother. She saved you. Again. He crawled to her, resting his forehead against her hand. No, she didn't save me. She just shared her heart. And as he said it, his chest glowed faintly gold, a smaller, dimmer crystal pulsing beneath his skin. Hours later, the storm passed. In the quiet of dawn, the academy's windows shone with soft sunlight. Eli sat beside Lyraya's bed, his strength slowly returning. The sisters slept near the window, their hands clasped together. When Lyraya's eyes finally opened, she whispered weakly, You kept your promise. Eli smiled softly. You did too. You came back. She reached out, touching his chest where the faint light still pulsed. Now we share one heart, he nodded. And it beats for them. Lyraya turned her head to look at her sleeping daughters, safe, alive, and free. A single tear fell, but this time it was not of sorrow. It was peace. Outside, the first sun of Velthar rose over the horizon, bathing the city in golden light. And somewhere in the distance, the wind carried a whisper. No act of love is ever lost. It only waits to return. The morning light spread slowly across Velthar's surface, soft gold over gray ruins. The air smelled of metal and rain, carrying the silence of a world that had forgotten its past. From the balcony of the medical wing, Seren watched the horizon. Below her, broken towers rose from the dust like the bones of fallen giants. She had not slept. Her mind replayed the same moment again and again. Her mother's return, Eli's sacrifice, the light that joined them both. It was beautiful, but it left too many questions. Why had her mother been forced to sell her heart in the first place? Who made the law that doomed her? And what secret did their homeworld still hide? Behind her, the door hissed open. Eli stepped out slowly, leaning against the frame. His face was pale but alive, a faint golden light still pulsing under his chest. You should be resting, Seren said quietly. I've rested enough, he replied with a tired smile. There's something I need to do before I lose the strength to do it. She turned to face him. You're going back, aren't you? He nodded. Your mother's village and the place where it all began. The heart still resonates with it. I think there's something there she needs to see. And something I need to understand. Seren looked toward the room where Lyraya slept. She's too weak to travel. Eli shook his head. She'll come. She has to. Hours later, under a pale violet sky, a small ship lifted from the Academy's landing bay. Inside, Lariah, Eli, Seren, and Naya sat in silence. The hum of the engines filled the quiet like a heartbeat. Through the viewport, the landscape changed from shining cities to deserts of glass and bone. The scanners showed no signs of life. Naya's fingers fidgeted nervously. "It's hard to believe this is where we were born," she whispered. Lariah closed her eyes. "Our home was once full of music," she said softly. "Children laughed in the streets. We believed our hearts were gifts from the stars. Until the law of blood changed everything." Seren looked at her. "The law that said only elder sisters could inherit life cores?" Lariah nodded slowly. "Yes, the council feared chaos, so they made ownership a birthright. One sister owns, one obeys. The younger's heart belongs to the elder." "That was the way," Naya's voice broke. "That's why they took you?" "No," Lariah said, staring into the distance. "They took me because I defied it. I gave birth to 2 daughters, twins. You both broke the law simply by existing." Silence filled the cabin. Eli's voice came quietly. "So they exiled you," she nodded. "And when the famine came, no one was allowed to help me. They said it was the price for breaking sacred order." Seren's fists clenched. "That law killed our people." Lariah looked at her sadly. "No, fear did." The ship descended into a canyon of red stone. At its heart stood the remains of a once beautiful village. Crumbling homes, shattered statues, and burned fields. In the center was a stone pillar, cracked but still standing. Symbols carved into its surface glowed faintly when Lariah approached. Her steps slowed. "This is where I gave you both your names," she whispered. "And where I was judged for it." Eli followed her quietly. "The energy here is still active. There's a buried chamber below us." Seren crouched by the stones, brushing away dust. "It's an old shrine," she said. "To the Heart Keepers," Lariah nodded. "Those who guarded the balance between worlds." As if answering her words, the pillar vibrated faintly. A deep hum filled the air, low and steady. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and a faint spiral of light formed. A hidden entrance revealed itself. Naya's eyes widened. "What is this place?" Lariah stepped forward, her heart crystal glowing brighter. "The Chamber of Origins," she said softly. "The place where the first heart was made." They descended a winding staircase carved into the rock. The deeper they went, the warmer the air became. The walls shimmered faintly with veins of living light, as if the planet itself had veins that carried memories instead of blood. At the bottom lay a circular chamber filled with ancient devices and glass tanks, long broken, but still humming faintly. In the center stood an altar with a crystalline seat, cracked but glowing faintly gold. Eli approached it slowly. "This energy, it's the same as your heart," Lariah nodded. "Because all hearts were born here. We were designed, our species made from the fusion of light and emotion." Seren frowned. "Designed by who?" Lariah looked at her daughters, then at Eli. "By humans. Long ago." The silence that followed was heavy. Naya whispered, "Humans created our kind." Lariah's voice trembled. "We were their experiment, their hope to build a race that could survive in worlds where they could not. But when they disappeared, we forgot. We made laws, built empires, and turned against the very compassion that created us." Eli stood still, staring at the ancient altar. "So humanity didn't just save your people once," he said softly. "They gave them life." Lariah touched the altar gently. "And now perhaps one human has done it again." She turned to Eli. "Your bond with my heart was not an accident. It was the return of what was lost, human and alien becoming one again." The air shimmered with golden light as the altar's energy flared to life. The walls filled with ancient holograms, humans and aliens side by side, building worlds together. Seren's eyes filled with tears. They worked together, not as masters and slaves, but as family. Naya touched her mother's hand. "Maybe we can do the same." Lariah smiled through her tears. "Yes, that is why we were brought here." Eli placed his hand over his chest, feeling the shared heartbeat. "Then let's rebuild it, the way it was meant to be." The golden light spread through the chamber, flowing up toward the surface. The ruined village above began to shimmer faintly, as if touched by dawn for the first time in centuries. Outside, the wind carried whispers again, voices from long ago, filled with warmth and gratitude. And in that moment, The past and future touched. The light from the ancient chamber still glowed softly through the cracks in the earth. Outside, the ruined village of Velthar shimmered faintly under a golden dawn. For the first time in generations, the air was warm, not cold. The dust that once choked the valley seemed to lift, as if the planet itself had taken a deep breath after centuries of silence. Standing among the ruins, Eli looked down at his hands. The faint golden light under his skin still pulsed, a living reminder that he now carried part of Lyraya's heart. His breath was steady, but every beat came with a strange echo, her heartbeat inside him. Beside him, Lyraya stood quietly, her silver hair glowing in the sunlight. Her daughters, Saren and Naya, watched from a few steps away, unsure whether to speak or stay silent. The hum of the chamber below faded slowly. What replaced it was a gentle rhythm, the sound of two hearts beating together. Eli finally spoke, his voice soft but firm. The chamber is active again. It's generating power. Life energy, Lyraya nodded. It's reawakening the planet's core. The world is healing. Naya looked at her mother's glowing chest, then at Eli. But it's also hurting you, isn't it? Eli smiled faintly. Maybe a little. But pain is just the reminder that something real exists. Saren stepped forward, her jaw tight. No, we can't lose either of you again. There has to be a way to separate your hearts, safely. Lyraya shook her head gently. If we do that, the energy balance will collapse. The chamber needs both our essences to stay stable. The planet was dying, remember? Our bond keeps it alive now. Naya frowned. So you're saying you have to keep sharing one heart? Lyraya smiled sadly. Yes, two worlds joined by one rhythm. Hours passed as they explored the ruins further. They found ancient markings written in both human and alien scripts. The carvings spoke of a prophecy. When two hearts beat as one, the divide will end. Eli read the words aloud. His voice echoed through the hollow hall. It means, this was always meant to happen. Lyraya traced the carvings with her fingers. Our ancestors must have hoped for this, for reunion between human compassion and alien spirit. Serene turned toward them, her eyes shining. Then maybe it's not just about you two. Maybe it's about all of us, humans and Veltharians, rebuilding together. Eli smiled, though weariness showed in his face. You sound like your mother. Naya laughed softly through tears. That means you have no choice but to listen to her. As the sun dipped lower, the four of them climbed to the top of a broken watchtower overlooking the desert. The horizon stretched endlessly, silent, scarred, but now glowing faintly gold where the earth had begun to heal. Eli placed a small beacon on the ledge, a transmitter tuned to human frequencies. I'll send a signal, he said. If anyone from the old colonies still listens, they'll come. We'll need them to rebuild. Lyraya looked at him carefully. You're calling your people back to a world that once rejected ours. He met her gaze, calm and steady. Then let them see what compassion built, and what hatred almost destroyed. Saren and Naya stood behind them, silent witnesses to a moment that felt larger than history itself. Night came quietly. The stars over Velthar seemed brighter than ever, as if the universe itself watched in wonder. A campfire flickered near the ruins where the four sat together. Naya roasted small ration cubes over the flame, pretending they were real food. I still don't understand how you're alive, Eli, she said softly. Humans aren't supposed to survive bonding with a heart crystal. Eli looked at the firelight reflecting in Lyraya's eyes. Maybe I wasn't supposed to survive, he said. But love rewrites rules science can't. Lyraya smiled faintly. You always say that. Because it's always true. The sisters exchanged a look, quietly smiling for the first time in what felt like forever. Then suddenly, the ground beneath them rumbled softly. The fire swayed. Saren rose quickly. The energy's building again. Eli stood pressing his hand against his chest. The golden veins beneath his skin glowed brighter, pulsing faster. The same light flared from Lyraya's chest, perfectly synchronized. Naya's eyes widened. It's reacting to something. The sky. Above them, faint streaks of light cut through the darkness. Ships. Dozens of them descending slowly, their hulls reflecting silver in the moonlight. Saren gasped. Is that? Eli nodded, eyes wide. Humans. The signal worked faster than I thought. The ships landed in a wide circle, their engines silent now. From the largest vessel stepped human officers, cautious but curious. The lead commander, a woman with gray hair and a strong gaze, stared at Eli. "We received your signal, Captain Varen, but we never expected this." She looked around at the glowing ruins, at Lyraya and her daughters. "Are those the Veltharians?" They were thought extinct. Eli took a step forward, his voice steady but filled with feeling. "They survived because compassion did. This planet can live again, but not as two sides. It needs both of us." The commander studied him, then nodded slowly. "Then perhaps it's time humanity learns what it once forgot." Lyraya approached, her posture regal but kind. "We welcome you, not as owners or saviors, but as equals. Our hearts are already joined. Now let our worlds be too." The commander extended her hand. Lyraya looked at it, then placed her own within it. The moment their hands touched, the glow from Eli and Lyraya's chests flared again, bright and pure, spreading outward like a wave of light that rolled across the ruins. The humans shielded their eyes, but when they looked again, the broken buildings had changed, their stone smooth, glowing faintly gold as if healed by that shared light. Naya whispered, awe in her voice, "The planet, it's alive again." Seren looked at Eli and her mother. "You two did it. You became the bridge." Eli smiled weakly, his eyes reflecting both the light and exhaustion. "No, we all did. Together." As dawn broke once more over Velthar, human and alien stood side by side. Staring at the same sunrise, two races finally united not by power but by empathy. And high above, the wind carried the faint echo of a heartbeat, one that belonged not to a single being but to two worlds reborn. He didn't just return her heart, he gave both worlds a reason to beat again. The twin suns of Velthar rose slowly, painting the sky in gold and violet. The air shimmered with new warmth, and the ruins that once stood silent now thrummed softly with life. Green vines had begun to climb over the old stone walls, and flowers glowed with faint light, proof that the planet was breathing again. On the ridge overlooking the valley, Eli Varen stood quietly, a faint golden light still pulsing beneath his chest. His breath came slow but steady, his eyes fixed on the rebuilt village below where humans and Veltharians worked side by side. For the first time in generations, laughter echoed in those streets. Children, alien and human, ran together through the dust, chasing silver-winged insects under the new sun. Eli smiled faintly. "We did it," he whispered, but behind that smile was exhaustion, the kind that lived deep in the bones. Every pulse of the shared heart left him weaker. He hid it well, especially from Lyraya. From behind, her voice came soft as the breeze. "You always come here before dawn." Eli turned. Lyraya walked toward him, her long silver hair flowing in the wind, her face radiant with life. The heart crystal in her chest glowed gently, mirroring his own. "I like watching beginnings," Eli said. "They remind me why endings exist." She frowned slightly, sensing something in his tone. "You're fading," he chuckled quietly. "Always were too perceptive." Her eyes softened. "You gave too much of yourself." He looked back at the valley. "You gave everything first, I just returned it." Lyraya stepped closer. "That is not how love works, Eli. You don't give to die, you give to live together." He smiled but said nothing. His gaze was steady, but his heartbeat faltered, and she felt it, like a missing note in a song they shared. Later that day, the Alliance Council gathered in the restored Hall of Glass, humans and Veltharians together for the first time in history. Flags of two species hung side by side. At the center stood Seren and Naya, dressed in silver ceremonial robes. Their mother stood behind them, regal yet gentle. Eli was there too, though his steps were slower, his hands trembling faintly. The human commander spoke first. "Today marks the first dawn of the unified accord of two worlds. The energy of Velthar will sustain both species. This peace was made possible by one act of sacrifice and the return of a heart." The hall fell silent. All eyes turned to Eli. Lyraya's gaze never left him. The golden light within her chest pulsed faster, as if sensing what he planned. Eli took a breath, his voice calm and quiet. "The bond that healed this world came from compassion, but the connection between our hearts, it wasn't meant to last forever. If we don't release it now, it could consume both of us and the planet we saved." Naya's eyes widened. You mean to separate the hearts? He nodded. The chamber below has stabilized. It can transfer the shared energy back to the planet itself. But to do that, one of us must break the link. Seren stepped forward, shaking her head. No, you won't survive that. Eli smiled gently. I never expected to. Lyraya's voice broke. You can't. Not after everything we've rebuilt. He looked at her, eyes filled with quiet peace. You once sold your heart to save your daughters. Let me return it to save you and this world. That night the chamber beneath the ruins glowed again. The hum of ancient energy filled the tunnels. Eli stood at the center of the altar, his hands resting on the crystalline console. Lyraya faced him, tears shining in her silver eyes. Serene and Naya stood on the platform above, helpless, hearts pounding. Lyraya whispered, I should have died long ago. Let it be me. Eli shook his head. It's already chosen. The human heart wasn't built to carry both worlds. He reached out, touching her cheek with trembling fingers. Promise me you'll live, not just survive. I can't live without your light, she whispered. You already did, he said softly. You carried hope long before I ever came. The chamber brightened. The altar flared with light, surrounding them both in gold. Seren cried out, Eli, stop! But the sound was swallowed by the growing hum. Eli pressed his hand to his chest, and the light beneath his skin poured outward. Bright, blinding, pure. The shared heartbeat began to separate, splitting into two rhythms, one slowing, one strengthening. Lyraya's knees buckled as the energy surged back into her body. The heart crystal in her chest glowed brilliantly, whole again. Eli fell to his knees, his breath short. The golden light in his chest dimmed, then flickered like a dying flame. Lyraya crawled to him, tears falling freely. No, stay with me. He looked up at her one last time. You see? I told you. I'd return it. His hand brushed her cheek gently, warm, then still. The light in the chamber faded, replaced by silence. The hum of energy settled into a soft, steady rhythm, the pulse of a world reborn. When the dawn rose again, the valley was alive with color. The first forests of Velthar sprouted green beneath the suns. The rivers ran clear for the first time in centuries. At the center of the village, beside the altar stone, stood a monument, two joined symbols, human and alien, encircling a single heart carved from crystal. Beneath it, engraved in both languages, were simple words. He returned the heart not for power, but for love. And the world began to beat again. Lyraya stood before the monument, her daughters by her side. The wind carried faint whispers, not of sorrow, but of peace. Seren spoke softly. Do you think he can hear us? Lyraya smiled through her tears. He doesn't need to. He's already part of every heartbeat this world takes. Naya placed a hand on her mother's shoulder. He gave us more than life. He gave us the future. Lyraya closed her eyes. Then let us live it. Above them, the sky blazed bright gold, two suns crossing paths, their light blending into one. And in that endless light, the human buyer who returned an alien's heart became more than a story. He became the reason both worlds lived, loved, and remembered.